Okay, guys, so on Thursday we learned about composition of functions, which is when we're dealing with both inverse functions and our normal trig functions in one expression, and we worked on simplifying them down. All of the examples we did on Thursday, though, were part of our unit circle, so we were using that quite a bit. But there are some situations where we aren't going to have a value that's in our unit circle. So let's take a look at 25 and 26. Okay, and see how we can determine what this value must simplify down to. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to decide what quadrant our angle is going to lie in. We can actually think of this guy as an angle, right? It's the inverse cosine of 8/17. It's going to give us some angle. We don't know what that angle is yet, though. But because it's cosine, remember our apple sandwiches taste crunchy. Okay? There's only two spots where cosine is positive, right? It's going to be either the first quadrant or the fourth quadrant. Okay? But then on top of that, what we can do is we can remember our restrictions on our inverses. Remember, inverse cosine can only be found in two quadrants. If you take a look at these guys, cosine is between 0 and pi. That's quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, right? So that means that this guy must be in quadrant 1. Okay? So now let's go ahead and figure out all the sides of a triangle that we would get if we were to go ahead and use the fact that in this scenario cosine is equal to 8/17. Remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so we would have something like that. And then to figure out our third side, all we have to do, because this is a right triangle we created, right, is the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? And 17 squared, let's see what that is. I don't have that on the top of my head. 17 squared, 289. So we got 289 equals 64 plus b squared. So it looks like when we do all our work here, we get something like 15 for that side there, right? And the reason why this helps us is even though we didn't figure out what the actual angle was, we know all the sides of a right triangle for that angle. So finding tangent should actually be pretty easy. Right? So all we have to do, here's our angle, and we want to find tangent. That's 15 over 8, right? And then all we have to do to finish off here is decide whether it's positive or negative. If we're in quadrant 1, everything's positive, so this guy should be positive as well. So now let's take a look at number 26. We're going to do the same deal. So here we have the sine of the arctangent of -12/5. Okay, so first off, we have to decide which quadrant this guy must lie in. So apple sandwiches taste crunchy. Our tangent's negative, so that means we can't be here or here, right? Has to be either in the second or the fourth quadrant. And then remember, think about our restrictions. Our restrictions tell us that tangent is going to be from -pi/2 to pi/2 when we're dealing with the inverse. And we are right here, right? Okay, so that means must be in quadrant 4 as well. Right? Not as well. That other one was in quadrant 4, sorry. And then we're going to do the same process, right? Remember, we can consider this to be some angle. We don't know what it is yet, but we know when we take the inverse tangent of something, we're going to get some angle measure. So let's draw a right triangle, and let's give its sides as, remember, opposite over adjacent for tangent. And then let's go ahead and figure out what our hypotenuse is going to be by doing the Pythagorean theorem. That's going to be 144 plus 25, and that is 169. And when we take the square root of 169, we get something like 13. And then what we can do is, remember, we're trying to find the sine of this angle, right? And we don't have what that angle measure is, but we have all the three sides that correspond with it in a right triangle. So what we can do is we know sine is going to go ahead and be opposite over hypotenuse, right? But we have to look back at what quadrant we decided our angle lies in, and we said quadrant 4. And in quadrant 4, cosine's the only positive, so this guy should actually be negative, and we have our answer. All right, so today's lesson was pretty short and sweet. What I want you to do is go ahead and in the homework that you did the other day, which was homework 15, go ahead and complete 16 and 17 for me. They're going to look pretty similar to what we just did. I hope you guys have a good day.